rote learning of data points just so that they can reproduce and vomit it out won't be enough, because UPSC focuses on the policy changes, the evolution, the trade-offs we have to do, and with that, smart use of available resources.
Economy, a lot of students face problems with this particular aspect of the syllabus because of the vastness of the syllabus, the need for conceptual analysis, the in-depth nature of the concepts itself.
You can also quote international practices or a comparison between the development strategy of China and India. You can always quote Scandinavian countries when we are talking about inclusive growth.
Normally, it would be considered, sir, as a very basic concept. People would ignore it, but don't be surprised if UPSC ends up asking a standalone question on what is the role of RBI.
This year we're talking about a lot of tax reforms. So they have asked this particular question in 2017 that what this budget specifically, this year's budget talked about.
What is the Monetary Policy Committee? What is the constitution of the Monetary Policy Committee? What is its role, importance? Then what are the tools which it uses for inflation control?
Let's say when we are talking about liberalization, how license Raj we ended, what changes we made from FERA to FEMA.
Standalone questions on indicators such as the MPI, the Multidimensional Poverty Index, or the HDI. What is the difference between MPI and SDI?
Within industrial policy, also be prepared for subtopics within industrial policy. Now we have come up with new steel policy or electronic manufacturing policy, etc. अगर ये आपने ये prepare कर लिया पूरी cycle, then you will be able to deal a good part of it.
Yes. Hello everyone. Welcome to the GS Blueprint for the much awaited GS3 topics of the mains paper. We'll be starting with the GS3 economy part. I'm Nitin and with me is Kanishk sir.
Hello everyone.
Alright, so economy, a lot of students face problems with this particular aspect of the syllabus because of the vastness of the syllabus, the need for conceptual analysis, the in-depth nature of the concepts itself, and as well as the dynamic part and the dynamic nature of the topics.
Now, talking about economics, we know that India is an emerging growth pole of the world. We have just crossed Japan and became the fourth largest economy, crossed the $4 trillion mark, and soon we'll be $5 trillion economy. So it is natural that this subject remain crucial from UPSC perspective also. Now, talking about student preparation, a lot of students face issues because they think that data points for economy would be enough. So that rote learning of data points just so that they can reproduce and vomit it out won't be enough, because UPSC focuses on the policy changes, the evolution, the trade-offs we have to do, and with that, smart use of available resources. This is what makes this subject interesting and the backbone of GS3.
Very correctly mentioned, sir. And this is what makes this topic so difficult. And a lot of students have approached to us asking that if we could make the GS3 part also easier so that we can they can make their notes on it. And to make things easier, we have come up with the GS Blueprint for the economy part.
People have been commenting in our previous videos also related to GS Blueprint that do it for all the subjects. So yes, we are planning to do that for all the subjects. Need not worry about that. All right, let's start with GS Blueprint for economy. Now, one interesting highlight would be that this is about core economics. This will not be covering agriculture related topics. We'll do a separate video for that. Topic 1, 2, 3 and 8, 9, 10 from GS3 related to economics. Right. So let's start with the first topic itself, that is Indian economy and issues related to it. Now, the first issue. Okay, there are broad issues related to Indian economy. Down the line, we'll be covering that in various slides rather than having everything dropping down in the first column itself. Talking about planning. Now, planning is, of course, important and has been playing an important role in our economic trajectory, economic developmental strategy. Now, you have to break down this particular topic, that what has been the role of economy, what has been the evolution of our economic planning strategy, then how we have transitioned from planning commissions and what was the role of planning commissions to now how we are and what we are doing with Niti Aayog. What is the role of Niti Aayog? They have already asked with the differentiation between two bodies. Then now what is the evolving role in 21st century for Niti Aayog? How it has been doing in the last 10 years. We are celebrating 10 years of Niti Aayog this year. So it becomes really crucial. How Niti Aayog, again, can be linked to any of the topics, can be instrumental in inclusive growth, in planning, etc. All this remains crucial. Now, again, how its suggestions will be shaping Viksit Bharat, how it can help us become $5 trillion economy. Now, this is where Sir also mentioned the dynamic part of the syllabus comes in. And I would recommend, if you have to get some brownie points, some impressive keywords, do keep a tab on various strategies released by Niti Aayog, like Vision at 75 and our developmental vision for 2047. Right? It will, if you keep these handy, it will be easier for you. And again, there have been questions from planning earlier. There have been last year, there was a question last year or last to last year regarding digitalization of economy. How that, of course, every aspect comes from planning. Right? Sir?
All right, the next topic is mobilization of resources. See, this topic in itself carries a lot of weightage because it is further divided into the public debt and public finance, as well as the monetary policy and the external sector. So 3 subtopics are within this topic. See, you would not know this division of into 3 subtopics if you are not dwelling down inside the syllabus and preparing your notes. Now, coming to the public finance and fiscal policy. Public finance and fiscal policy. First thing that you need to know here is that what is a deficit. You should be knowing the definition if you want to write the introduction. Then comes the implications of deficit, what it is for the budget itself, the budget making process itself. Then off budget borrowings, what are they? Then you have to know what are the center state financial relations, which is the fiscal federalism part. In that, the vertical and the horizontal vertical and horizontal distribution of taxes, be it the GST part. Then you have a lot of issues in the GST itself, be it the GST compensation cess or the levies which are implemented. Then you have what are the rationale of subsidies, what are the implications of those subsidies on the public finance and public debt. Coming to the next part, which is the monetary policy. In this, the first thing that you need to know here is about RBI. See, normally it would be considered, sir, as a very basic concept. People would ignore it, but don't be surprised if UPSC ends up asking a standalone question on what is the role of RBI in the banking and the monetary policy process of India.
Analysis,
right?
Of that.
So have your notes prepared in such a way that even if a very basic question comes on RBI, you're able to write under which act was it formed, what are the scheduled banks and all, right? So those things should be prepared. Then in RBI, what are the roles and functions? Obviously, you need to know. Then under monetary policy, one new thing is the monetary policy committee. What is the monetary policy committee? What is the constitution of the monetary policy committee? What is its role, importance? Then what are the tools which it uses for inflation control? What is the mandate of inflation itself? Then in the tools itself, you can have you should be aware of what CRR, SLR or repo rate, etc. are, and then prepare on each of those topics. Then under monetary policy and in monetary policy itself, a subtopic again emerges, which is the inflation aspect. UPSC's favorite child, inflation. UPSC has in the past also ended up asking a lot of questions on inflation. Then in inflation, you have to be aware of what are the causes of inflation, which is either it can be demand pull or cost push, right? Not a standalone question would come, but this could be written inside the answer, right? And then what is CPI or WPI? We have recent changes in terms of the base year,
for
right?
GDP
calculation, as well as the CPI and WPI also.
2023-24.
Difference between CPI and WPI, although it is considered as a very basic question among UPSC circle, but again, we never know about UPSC. Then you have in this itself the banking sector. Now, RBI we've already covered. In the banking sector, you have to know about what are commercial banks, what are small financial banks, what are NBFCs, what is the difference between NBFC and a commercial bank, what are the challenges and issues with NBFCs. Then you have cooperative banks, detailed notes on those. Then in this itself, another topic which comes is about financial inclusion. We'll talk in detail about financial inclusion in the later parts of the syllabus because it's very redundant. Then apart from monetary policy, which we covered, the third aspect is in this, that is the capital markets. Capital markets for mains is not very important, but I would advise have something prepared on the lines of what is a primary market, what is a secondary market, what is the role of SEBI in regulation of these markets, what is gift city, then what is IFSC, what is its role and what is the mandate, etc., etc. You get the gist. Prepare on these topics.
Now, within mobilization of resources, as sir mentioned, also try to include the current affairs also regarding, let's say, banking reform, what is happening in banking reforms, how we have been able to overturn the NPA crisis, then recent amendments which have been proposed regarding RBI Act or Banking Regulation Act, all those is important. So 50 years we are celebrating for microfinance, that is also crucial. Now also we are talking about one nation, one RRB. All these are keywords that you should not, if not a standalone question, you should be utilizing in your answers. Now one more about GST here, taxation topic. Sir covered about, you should also keep quoting about parliamentary committee which recommended the GST review altogether. Right. Now then within mobilization of resources, one important topic is the external sector.
Third aspect.
The external sector. Now, a lot, we know that we are living in a global village. Now, this part can be an overlap with the international relation. We did a video earlier because it is mainly related to the external financial sector, how we are globalized and what are, let's say, deglobalization pressures. As an economic survey called about economic fragmentation, we are talking about. Then within this, you can talk about institutional reforms, WTO, IMF, what is the new world economic order. Again, it can be an overlap with IR portion. IR portion of GS2 and of course economic international governance, what is happening with that. They've already asked last year regarding WTO and direct indirect subsidies. So all that you should be prepared with. Now talking about here, what can be the role of India? What is the status of India and what role India can play in shaping the world economic order, and what are the opportunities and challenges for India? Within this, you can talk about balance of payments. You can also talk about FDIs, FIIs, then also CAD. You can talk about what are the, let's say, how we are managing the current account deficit, what is it, etc. Then forex reserve, etc. is it's really important. We are seeing increasing importance, and what is the composition of that? All that static portion should also be handy. So this is where the mobilization of resources become crucial. It is, I think, the large part of the syllabus, and maybe the more dimensions of economy come from mobilization of resources. Now talking about the next topic is growth and development, sir.
Right. So in growth and development, see, we'll be telling you about a lot of topics because what we want to do here is make sure that we are not missing many topics and you are aware of what can be asked. But we are also aware, sir, that it is not practically possible to be making notes on all the topics. So pick and choose from this, although do have your list ready. And then whatever is feasible during this 1.5 months which is remaining, you do that accordingly. Right now, coming to the growth and development part, first ask yourself, are you aware of what the definition of growth is and what is the definition of development? Are you aware what is the difference between growth and development? Then are you aware of what are the various drivers of growth? What are the various drivers of growth? Is it consumption led? Is it export led? Is it government investment or government spending led growth, or is it something, is the growth being led by demographic dividend,
labor intensive,
right?
Intensive, all these you should be prepared for.
So demographic dividend, like I mentioned, another major aspect which comes from this only. It is a driver of growth, and then the challenges and issues related to demographic dividend can be asked separately. Now coming to the next part of it is, what is the difference between growth and development? And then you have what are the factors which are affecting growth. This in itself can be a standalone question. What are the factors which are affecting the growth of India? Then you have what are, in terms of growth and development, you have GDP as a important factor. Now, difference between GDP and GVA can
They've
be
already asked this question.
Yes, already asked also. Then what is the utility of GDP as a measure of growth?
Exactly.
Right? and then you have various other factors like what is a middle income trap, another keyword which was very important. It has been important for some years now. Then you have what is the another important issue which is going on is what is the dichotomy between we are seeing deflated growth indicators as well as inflated stock market indicators. So why is this dichotomy persisting in the economy, right? So these are the questions you need to ask yourself in this topic and have your notes prepared accordingly.
Then within development, there is always human development, human capital,
Yes.
social development, etc. All these you have to prepare. Do have your keywords also prepared, that Amartya Sen said that development is actually what makes us free. Development is freedom, right? Now within this, we have also, as sir also mentioned, regarding jobless growth. Now another topic is employment, and of course unemployment as a challenge for our economy. Now talking about jobless growth, we are also time and again witnessing job loss growth. There are new challenges which are emerging. Within employment is, of course, as I said, unemployment is one topic, and also underemployment is another topic. Now at times it appears that it will be more of an analytical topic also, but you should be ready with your static part here as well, that what are the types of static unemployment, structural, frictional, disguised unemployment. They have asked this question earlier, I think last year or last year, they have asked about structural unemployment specifically. Then what are the causes for unemployment in India? What are the various measures? How do you compute it? They again have asked this question. So you have to be prepared for static area also regarding employment. Now within employment, there are various types of unemployment. You can talk about youth as a focus area for employment. You can talk about women low labor force participation rate, or you can talk about regional disparity. You can also talk about, let's say, rural urban divide for unemployment. You can also divide regarding formal and informal nature. What is gig economy? Again, extension of underemployment as a keyword. Then you can also talk about, now AI is another challenge emerging. Now we are talking about mid-manager crisis, automation or skill gap for AI. Then talking about skills, you should again be prepared within this area about skill. What has been the, let's say, government initiative regarding skill? What has been the, let's say, potential we have, as sir also mentioned, about demographic dividend, how we can utilize that, how can skill be a driver of growth. Then future of work, how we should bridge the gap between industry and academia, what can be the startup culture, what type of let's say skill they are looking for. They have also talked about last year again labor reforms, labor code they have talked. So you should be prepared for all the government initiatives, major initiatives, key flagship programs, Make in India, Skill India program, Stand Up India startup. All this should be prepared under employment area, right? So that was about topic 1. Let's have a look at topic 2, broad topic, inclusive growth.
Now see, in inclusive growth, again a very enigmatic topic, I would say, because not a lot has been mentioned in the syllabus itself. What we try to do is break it down into as smaller components as possible. And the first thing is have your definition ready on what is the core concept of inclusive growth. Are you able to define it in the introduction itself or not? Then comes, what are the dimensions of inclusive growth? What are the dimensions for inclusive growth? Whether it can be economic, it can be social, it can be financial, or it can be digital also. So digital inclusivity is also another hot topic which UPSC has been focusing on. Then in terms of financial inclusion itself, you have various aspects such as what are the challenges in financial inclusion, what are the reforms which have been taken by the government towards financial inclusion. And in reforms, you should be mentioning about the Jan Dhan Yojana, the Mudra Yojana, and various other social schemes which have led to financial inclusion. Then in inclusive growth comes another factor, which is about what are the indicators of inclusive growth. In indicators, one question can be that itself, how are the indicators of inclusive growth enough to define inclusivity or not? Then there can be standalone questions on indicators such as the MPI, the multidimensional poverty index, or the HDI. What is the difference between MPI and HDI? And we can also have questions on something like an inclusive development index, which is given by World Economic Forum. Then you have the women labor force participation. Recent trends have shown that the LFPR has gone up. What are the reasons for this trend? Are you able to give substantial points on those or not? Right. Then you have another factor, which is the drivers of inclusive growth. So what are the drivers of inclusive growth? You can have factors such as agriculture and rural development. You can have employment. You can have education and health. You can have social protection also as a driver of inclusive growth. So standalone questions can come on those.
Now, talking about inclusive growth again, as sir also mentioned that it is a very important topic, and UPSC is again, as sir keep mentioning, favorite child. There have been multiple questions time and again. 2021 there was a question, 2017 there was a question, and it has been one of the most awaited question in recent
I think,
times.
sir, every year one question does come from this topic.
Because
yes.
this is what we have been aiming as welfare state.
Yes.
Right. Now, if at all not direct question, there will be a peripheral question. Let's say they'll ask about care economy. They have already asked, I think last year they asked about care economy, silver economy. So you should be prepared. Now, beyond what sir mentioned, within this, you should be prepared with poverty. Yes, poverty is again important topic. You should be prepared with what is the definition of poverty, what is let's say what is the definition of World Bank for poverty, what is different measures of poverty, which committee recommendation, how has been the evolution of measuring poverty in India. Then within this is again inequality. Again, if these things are removed, that means we are pushing towards inclusive growth. Within equality, you should be prepared for all the data. That Oxfam report, what does it say? How we are divided economically, the top 1%, the top 10%, etc., etc. All those measures, all that, those curves should be prepared.
And now, what I would say is, like you mentioned about Oxfam, what even in the copies of aspirants, what we are seeing is everybody is mentioning Oxfam. So what I would say is move away from that. It's done and dusted. We've seen it for some years now. Have some better introduction, better.
Maybe the latest report you can always quote. It remains relevant and important.
Correct.
Right. Now, talking about inclusive growth, how can technology, again, you can link inclusive growth to anything. How can government budget let's say incline towards inclusive growth? Let's say how can this particular sector, service sector, manufacturing sector, how can let's say infrastructure, road, railways, etc., how these are drivers of economic growth, you should be prepared for. Same is with technology. What can be the role of technology? Evolving technology, modern technology can be. Now within this, you can also broadly talking about, you should be prepared with issues and challenges. You should be prepared with government initiatives. Again, every initiative is for inclusive growth. No initiative is for exclusive growth. Then what are the measures which are required? How we can establish a just transition from, let's say, inequality towards inclusive growth. All this you should be prepared for, and we can always quote that for inclusive growth, we have to start with Atmanirbhar Bharat. You can talk about aspirational district program, aspirational block program. You can also quote international practices or a comparison between the development strategy of China and India. You can always quote Scandinavian countries when we are talking about inclusive growth, because there the welfare policies and inclusive and equity policies are raging. It can be a learning experience for us. Yes, so it is again remains very crucial. Prepare one pager. It will be very easy for you to link. At least if you have inclusive growth ka note prepared, you will be able to do linkage. Agar yehi topic weak hai, then certainly one part or the other in any one of the topics would remain weak.
Correct.
Now talking about topic 8, it's government budgeting. Now the first part is basics. Again, a very static area. Within basics, you should be talking about what is government budgeting, how it is done, what is the process. You should be prepared for what are the types of, let's say, capital expenditure, revenue expenditure, then revenue, capital revenue, capital budgeting, etc. They've asked question regarding what is the difference between capital and revenue budgeting, I think couple of years back itself. So be prepared for, again, it appears that it is a current oriented subject, but there will always be question. GDP, JVA, after the reform, they asked about 5-6 years later. So be prepared and again, keep the foundation of your statics strong. Right, within this, you can also talk about government budgeting. What are the factors in influencing domestic factors, international factors? Within domestic, you can talk about freebie culture. You can talk about always, it has been in news a lot. You can always talk about, let's say, how is coalition government influencing the government budget? Are we favoring one state or the other? Then you can always talk about one important factor, that is FRBM. Within government budgeting, FRBM is very crucial and has been our guiding force how for fiscal prudence. Let's say RBI recently released a report regarding state finances. So keep quoting these things, keep quoting about what are the different provisions of FRBM Act and how we can achieve it, what extra we can do from our end, right? Next is, sir, issues and challenges.
So, like in any other topic, issues and challenges is something we can expect a direct question from. In in the budgeting process, the issues and challenges are important. So, first thing that you need to know is what is a fiscal deficit and what are the issues in managing fiscal deficit. What is the government doing? Deficit financing, is it good or bad? Then off-budget borrowing, is it good or bad? So you have to prepare the merits and demerits of these topics. Then what is the debt to GDP ratio?
Exactly.
Conceptual understanding again, but it can be written in the introduction. And then why is India not able to manage its debt to GDP ratio or not?
Disinvestment.
Yes. Then expenditure management, subsidy management, is subsidy good or bad? Then you have disputes, like I've already mentioned, horizontal and vertical distribution of taxes. Then you have need for better performance evaluation. So in this you can write or even quote things like social audit,
Exactly.
things like
Transparency,
accountability,
governance.
interlink things from GS2, from GS4 in this. So this is a topic which lies somewhere between GS2 and GS3.
Exactly.
So use it accordingly, right? And then you have budget interlinkages in this. In the issues and challenges itself, you have budget interlinkages. I think that's in the last part of it.
Let's deal with the reforms first of all.
Yes.
Reforms, I think you will not be suggesting that how budget should be made, etc. But there can be reforms which have been done or which must be done. Right, within have been done, you can always analyze about the recent reforms. Recent means within last 1 decade, we have talked about merging of railway budget. Has it been productive? Or let's say we have done away with plan, non-plan expenditure, or let's say we are digitizing our budget presentation. This was our first budget based on data analytics, utilizing AI, etc. So all these are important topics. You can also talk about various strategies which are becoming a part of our improving the efficiency of our expenditure. For example, public finance management system. So you should be prepared for all the reforms which are done. Now, what can be the keywords on which you can suggest something? Of course, there are various keywords like, let's say, performance budgeting. You can talk about gender budgeting, or let's say zero-based budgeting. You can talk about green budgeting. All these are suggestions you should, or keywords which you can utilize, not just in under government budgeting, in any issue. Let's say you are talking about labor force participation rate. So you should be talking about gender budgeting. It is quite natural. You should be talking about gender budgeting. Knowledge hub we have created recently. ESG budgeting again. So these are various initiatives you should be recommending reforms from your end, right? Now, next is, as sir mentioned, the linkages part.
Yes. So in linkages, what I want you to know is the budgeting process being linked to something? Now, questions can be on both the aspects. What is something leading to better budgeting or worse budgeting? And then what is budgeting leading to something? I'll give you an example. So in 2019, UPSC ended up asking, how did liberalization ended up into affecting the budgeting process, right? So you have to be aware of both the linkages.
Again, two topics linked, this and the next one.
Yes. So, and the second part is that how is budgeting being is affecting, let's say, financial inclusion? What about budgeting as a process for better employment strategy? What about budget as something towards economic growth, inclusive growth, then sustainable development, climate change? What are the implications of the budgeting process on these topics? So this is where the
any topic you can think of, education, yes, health, and this year we are talking about a lot of tax reforms. So they have asked this particular question in 2017 that what this budget specifically, this year's budget talked about. So it can be again any way, it can be a question. Right, so that was about government budgeting. Next topic is LPG reforms, which talks about effects of liberalization on the economy and the industrial policy. Talking about LPG reforms, again, it is a very static topic. You should be prepared of a couple of things. One is what were these reforms? And maybe before that, you should also be talking about why these reforms were brought in. What was the need of these reforms?
Yes.
What led it to? What were the happenings in 17 and 80s? What challenges we faced in the economy? And why we realized that we should open up. Now, within this, LPG are separate topics. You should be prepared for liberalization, privatization, and of course, globalization separately. And what were the initiatives under each in detail? What was happening? How, let's say when we are talking about liberalization, how license Raj we ended, what changes we made from FERA to FEMA, etc. You should be ready with all these details. Within this, you can always talk about what are the reforms post LPG or how they have been successful, the analysis portion of it, that they have brought positive contribution to our Indian economy, where we have reached the 4th largest economy, or we could have done better, etc. The positive and negatives always will be there. Now, within this, you can also talk about the sectoral reforms within LPG, that how LPG, beyond LPG as such a keyword, you can talk about, let's say, how they impacted, as sir mentioned, there was a PYQ about budgeting, how they impacted our environmental health, how they impacted our health as a strategy, or economics, let's say education, how it is now privatized. Now how we are opening up our education sector in foreign universities we are inviting, right? So all these lay the foundation of our reforms which we are undertaking now. Now next is industrial policy, sir.
Now in industrial policy, see, this topic is very vague because there is no new industrial policy. The last industrial policy effectively was in 1991. Since then, the syllabus has not been updated and we are waiting for a good question to come on industrial policy. But still, what we'll recommend you to do is prepare on what is the evolution of industrial policy. Start from some salient features of 1956, say to 1980 to 1991, what has been the evolution. Then 1991 specifically has already been covered, what needs to be done there. Then what is the difference between a state-led industrial or growth to market-led growth? Then what is the disinvestment policy of the government? What are the benefits and challenges in the disinvestment policy? Then you have the critical analysis of entry of foreign players. What is the benefit and challenges or the demerits linked to entry of foreign players into key sectors? Right? How have the key sectors been opened up? Is it good or bad? So you get the gist. Then what is SEZ? What are the recent reforms? The Desh Bill. What are the significant provisions of the Desh Bill? How is it good or bad? Then with Desh Bill, we can go to the what are the other recent reforms which have been undertaken in the industrial policy, be it the Make in India initiative or the PLI scheme, or you can have the ease of doing business, the industry 4.0, what is the significance of industry 4.0, how is India ready or not ready to adapt to newer technologies. Like sir, you also mentioned about the technology AI part. So is it ready or not? Then you have what is the need for a new industrial policy, right? What should a new industrial policy look like? Do you have 5-6 points on those ready or not? Very significant. Again, then we have in this itself, we have the MSME sector. MSME was specifically mentioned as a pillar of growth this time in the budget.
Exactly.
Right, along with agriculture and other things. So
they've asked the question from manufacturing policy,
yes,
and MSME specifically in 2023.
Favorite child of UPSC is the MSME sector. What have been the the impediments of growth of the MSME sector,
and what has been the transition? What was the definition change?
Correct.
Was it suitable?
So that was all about this topic, sir. I think we've covered.
Within industrial policy, also be prepared for subtopics within industrial policy. Now we have come up with new steel policy or electronic manufacturing policy, etc. So be prepared for micro topics within industrial policy also. Now, topic 9 is about, it's a very broad topic, and again, there is at least one question from this particular topic.
The keyword is etc. here.
Etc. Yes. Now, we are talking about infrastructure. And within this, we have various areas as specifically mentioned in the syllabus itself. Now, talking about infrastructure, sir.
All right. We'll start with infrastructure. So first is a broad question can be asked that what is the benefit of infrastructure, etc., etc. So you should be aware of a clear-cut definition of what infrastructure is, or let's say what a sustainable infrastructure is, or let's say what a critical infrastructure is. So these definitions should be clear in your mind so that you can write down the introduction without wasting any time. Then comes what are the various types or the classification of infrastructure. Now infrastructure ideally, normally what comes into your mind is whether road is there or not, right? But infrastructure is not limited to roads. It is also expandable to communication, the telecom sector, the health infrastructure, the social infrastructure, or the digital infrastructure, the education infrastructure. Then you have defense infrastructure, transport infrastructure. So these classifications should be very clear in your mind so that you can write down the answer in a better way. Then coming to the digital infrastructure, very critical again. Digital public infrastructure, specific question can be asked and has been asked by UPSC.
Exactly. We have been expecting a repetition. There have been a lot of in current affairs.
Right. Then comes what is the role and the benefit of infrastructure development for a country. It does not only lead to economic benefits, but also what are the other social benefits of infrastructure development, then employment generation, inclusive growth, human development, etc., etc. Two pipelines you need to know in this is the National Infrastructure Pipeline and the National Monetization Pipeline. Specific questions can be asked on both.
And beyond these topics, I would recommend that you prepare for multimodal infrastructure also. Right? With these pipeline, they have already asked PM Gati Shakti. It was supposed to be a GS3 question, but they asked that in GS2. So again, there is always an overlap. Be prepared with the surprises. Don't think that everything you have prepared for GS3 would come from GS3 itself. It can be utilized, and of course it is as you have to have that multi-verse of knowledge. You have to link. Now talking about infrastructure, let me try to just outline that you can have a significance prepared for all these topics, and whatever sir mentioned about that also. What is the significance of digital infrastructure? Then you can talk about certain data points you should be handy with. That what is the percentage of digital infrastructure aims we have completed, what is the amount of roads we have developed, etc. For each you should have certain data points, and of course quoting a credible resource. Then within this you can also talk about types. Let's say we are talking about roads, we have highways, state highways, or Bharatmala project. All that should be prepared. Within, let's say, ports, you should be have ready with coastal or let's say inland ports, etc. So types are also important. Then issues and challenges for each. And of course, government initiatives and much needed reforms. What innovative suggestions do you have? So agar aapne ye prepare kar liya puri cycle, then you will be able to deal a good part of it. Every block can be divided into this. Agar ye data points prepared hai, it will be easier for you to tackle any part of this particular slide. Now talking about the first block, that is the energy. Now within energy, of course, there is beyond this, there will be some specificity. You will be prepared for, let's say, what is the energy domain, or where does India stand? What is the let's say composition of its energy mix? How much we are getting from coal, thermal power plant, how much we are getting from natural gas, renewable energy mix. And there can be again a question, standalone question from renewable energy. It might appear that it is a question from environmental renewable energy, but again, this is from economics. Within the renewable energy, you can talk about green hydrogen, national solar mission, green transition, right? Now we have been talking about Indus Water Treaty, hydropower projects, yes, or we are talking about national grid, one nation, one grid project, or South Asia grid. So all these questions are very probable here. Now, again, there have been questions earlier regarding DISCOMs. You should be ready with keywords like what is our national energy policy, what is integrated energy policy, what is let's say national electricity plan and policies are different. Then you can always talk about what reforms are needed in our electricity act. So again, multiple dimensions for each block. Be prepared for a standalone question on that also. Do that in your notes very thoroughly and analytically.
Yes, there can be a intermix between these topics and science and tech also. For example, small modular reactor is in news. a question can be asked on what is the working and principle of the small modular reactor, or it can be asked what is the significance of it in achieving energy
Bioenergy.
self-sufficiency. Yes, bioenergy.
Exactly.
You
We have
had
the
what is
mission
the role of microorganisms in the development of
Exactly.
energy. So it can be a science and tech question also, or it can be an infrastructure question also. Coming to the ports development, see, this year it becomes important because of the Vizhinjam port, and because it's a first deep sea multimodal port, and this makes it very significant. So in ports, let's say, what do you need to know? Sagarmala initiative has been going on for a long time. A question might come on those. What is the integrated port-led development, interland connectivity, etc.? You should be aware of those points. Then what is the coastal shipping and inland waterway transport? What are national waterways? What is the mission about? What is the significance, challenges, issues, etc.? Then what is blue economy? Is India, what are the challenges of India in materializing or instrumental in materializing the blue economy project or not? Then you have coastal economic zones similar to SEZs. What are the challenges with coastal economic zones? Then you have the Indian Ports Bill of 2025. I doubt a question can be will be coming this time, but you can always prepare on that.
We have also Coastal Shipping Bill 2025, which is talking about the regulation of coastal shipping, right? What are the licenses and for how long we have to give the licenses, etc. But be prepared, this can be part of your suggestion, if not a standalone question. Right, talking about again roads, one important part. Again, there are multiple dimensions as we discussed, but within this there can be standalone questions on topic like Bharatmala. Sorry, you can talk about Bharatmala here. You can talk about Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. You can talk about, let's say earlier there was a question from FASTag, how we are talking about e-toll collection,
science and tech,
exactly.
And these topics
then overlap. Again, you'll have to prepare. There can always be a question where they are overlapping subjects and you have to give an overlapping answer also. Then we can talk about green highways we have been mentioning. Then road safety is one of the biggest concerns and have been in the conversation of our ministers also. Then we have recently seen Supreme Court directing the central government to establish the National Road Safety Board also, which they notified in 2021 but didn't create for so long. So again, these are various areas. PM Gati Shakti, they have already talked. I don't think so there will be a repetition.
Yes.
So next is airports, sir.
See, airports, although last year itself there was a question on the Udan scheme, but this year again it becomes important because of the tragic incident of Air India. And so aircraft safety, air safety, and the airport sector
DGCA.
in general, what are the regulations, etc., becomes important this year. And so make your notes ready. We are expecting a question again. Then what are the other major ports, airport development which is happening, let's say in Noida, the Greater Noida and in Navi Mumbai? Why is there a need of such airport development alongside already existing major airports? Then what are the challenges in achieving aircraft safety, aircraft promoting the airway sector in India, right?
So again, as sir mentioned, there was a question regarding Udan scheme last year. So Udan scheme is not something new, but its evaluation after so many years were asked. So be prepared for major initiatives in all these dimensions, right? Talking about railways, we know that railway is the lifeline of the nation. It provides for employment of over 12 lakh people, and of course at the center of every economy that is running regarding freight corridors, or there can be a standalone question regarding dedicated freight corridor. Now we are talking about regional connectivity projects. We are talking about RRTS. We are talking about bullet train. We are talking about the performance of Vande Bharat, or what changes have been brought. Are we moving towards AC coaches, etc.? All these have been allegations. You can also talk about national rail policy or targets. We have the plan we have till 2030. One important dimension for which the present government and of course all the governments have been criticized was the railway safety. There have been a lot of derailings.
This year itself, in this new cycle,
continuous, every month or every second month, you keep seeing 1 or 2 accidents. Some lives are lost, or let's say some major losses, property losses are there for the government. It becomes important. Within this, you can always talk about that, the Kavach initiative, that what is that, how is it going to reduce. All these are important dimensions you should be prepared for, right? This was about topic 9. Let's have a look at topic 10. again, broader topic, investment models. We have divided this particular topic into types on one end, and of course, what measures are there or have been there regarding investment models.
In investment models, first be aware of what investment models are there, and then what are the concepts, what is the investment cycle. Standalone question might not come, but you can utilize these information while writing the answer. Then in types, you have again the government funded infrastructure investment models, totally government funded, totally private funded, and then comes the hybrid model. Right, in hybrid model there can be a question on the bot. In hybrid we have the PPP. Specific questions on the PPP model have been asked in various capacity. What are the challenges in PPP? What is the utility of public-private partnership in particular sector, be it the airway or the railway or any other sector, right? And then you have in hybrid models you have specific models like the bot, the hybrid annuity model, the EPC model. Comparison between these models can also come. So your conceptual understanding on these models should be there. What are the benefits of these models? What are the challenges with these models? So you can create a table and answer those questions.
Within the types, you can also talk about types according to the sectors, how the PPP model is suitable for infrastructure, how it might not be suitable for healthcare, how, let's say, startup culture is talking about PPP model, or how can government provide for incubators and funding also. So, right, there can be multiple type of questions. Now, talking about measures, you should be mentioning about what measures have been already taken, like Kalegar committee report. You can also talk about invites, RETs. Right there, I think a recent current affairs was that we have caught about the National Highway Infrastructure Trust has got the largest invite monetization. Right, so all these again stemming from current affairs. These are certain pointers you will be seeing in those short notes, in those prelim pointers, which can be put into your preparation. Then we have within this FDI, we have crossed in over from 2000 to 2024, we have crossed $1 trillion mark, which is huge achievement. In last 10 years, we have crossed or multiplied the 100%. We have increased 100% FDI. Now, again, there can be several measures like the change in concessionaire agreement or reforms in risk sharing. You can always talk about national logistics policy, how it can be utilized in applying these PPPs. Then you can also talk about what can be the investment role of investment promotion agencies, what land reforms can be augmented, or let's say what can be the role of arbitration dispute resolution. All that you should be prepared for. And of course, you have to have your technical recommendations, right? So that was about the economy breakdown. Let's have a look at certain PYQs, and of course,
quite a lengthy discussion, sir, but I hope really it was helpful. We'll cover some PYQs to give you a hint of what types of questions were asked, and just to tell you all about how they can be predicted as we do while analyzing these topics.
In our test series, AWFG, in our MGP, right?
Yes.
So the first question, it talks about factors responsible, and the theme here is MSME sector, and it was a question in 2023.
Already mentioned, a very prominent topic, UPSC's favorite. And,
time and again.
Yes.
Now, this was in the same year itself. It was replicated, but maybe it talked about how it is contributing to the GDP. Again, one or the other way of questioning the same topic, but your answer will not change hugely. If you have your static note prepared, 70% of your answer would be same year.
Correct.
Right? Next.
So again, renewable energy, which was asked, renewable energy targets can meet multiple objectives. Again, asked in MGP in 2022. And this was again given by UPSC also.
In the same year itself.
Yes.
They again talked about renewable energy.
The point is that renewable energy is such a mainstream topic that it is not easy. It is not difficult to guess. Right. So what we want you to know here is that these utilize what we've done so far and make your notes ready on at least the achievable topics.
Right. Now, let's have one more look at the PYQ. Again, this was a question regarding PPP. As sir mentioned, it is again crucial topic. You will see a lot of repetition, a lot of PYQs also in this particular topic itself.
Its role in specific sectors.
Exactly. Now, we asked about PPP in railway sector, and this was again replicated in the same way, PPP in railway sector.
Yes.
So be ready with all the topics, subtopics we have prepared. That was about from this discussion. I hope it was helpful.
Yes.
And of course, as we said, make sure your theme-wise notes are ready and short notes are ready rather than having 4 pages on a single topic.
Right.
Right.
Let's give them an exercise again. Why don't you make some questions what you feel can be asked this year on the topics that we've covered. Let's see what you whether you are able to guess those topics or not, and then in the mains we'll check.
Do that in the comment section.
Yes, all right.
We will come back to this video and see we have guessed it right or not.
Yes.
So utilize this blueprint, and specifically for this video, I would say try to build your economic muscle.
All right. Thank you so much,
All the
everybody,
very
for watching.
best.
Thank you.